This is the very latest. Should the president do more? Let's bring in Congressman Anthony Weiner of New York, also a member of the Democratic leadership and serves on the Energy Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm glad I could warm up for Gibbs.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, sometimes Gibbs is running a little bit late, so you may have a little extra time here as we wait for him to start. Let me start with something that Bob Dole, of course, the former Senate Republican leader, wrote today in the Washington Post. He wrote, Obama should be out front with his specific plan on this make-or-break issue, but Barack Obama is our president, not a commentator. Obama's approval ratings would jump 10 points if Americans knew he was fully in charge. Is it time for the president to write his own plan and say, this is exactly what we should do, and this is why it should be done, and let's make it happen?
I think so. I think that he needs to more clearly lay out what needs to be in a bill from his perspective. I understand the desire not to make the mistakes from '93, to let the Congress do its work, but we're kind of in a situation now that we're defending things that we don't even know are going to be in the final plan, and it's become too easy for our opponents to just kind of make stuff up because they can always say, hey, we heard this was happening, when in fact it might not be in any of the bills that are out there. The most important and essential thing he has to say is something that I think they've stepped up to saying pretty close, and that is there needs to be a public option. Once we understand that the president is prepared to go out and fight hard for that public option, I think he's going to find he's going to have support in the country, and because we're going to be able to sell it much more clearly.
Congressman, do you buy a little bit of the comment that Bill Maher, of course, has made, that calling it the public option is a little bit of a problem? It reminds people of like a public bathroom. I mean, just sort of that phraseology is just maybe off-putting to some, and maybe it needs to be put in different terms to explain exactly what it is.
I think it's a fair beef. I mean, branding this comes down to a basic question, though, whether people believe that their private insurance company, which has failed to keep costs down, which has excluded people, which has rationed care, should have some competition. I think the most important word in that phrase is option, because someone can choose it if they so choose. Sure. Now, I, of course, as you know, have a different position. I think that we should bypass the insurance companies altogether and have something like Medicare for all Americans, but that's not what the president's advocating. We might have a branding problem here, but I think the President of the United States, if he stands up and says, here's what I want to have in a bill, and goes out and sells it, you know, President Obama can do that better than anyone.
It's not just President Obama. It's the former President Bill Clinton, who was at the Tennessee Democratic Party's annual fundraiser this weekend alongside his old running mate, Al Gore. Just want to play what he had to say about the importance of getting this done. Listen.
We need to pass a bill. It needs to be the best bill we can possibly get through Congress, but doing nothing is not only the worst thing we can do for the economy and the worst thing we can do for health care, it's the worst thing we can do for the Democrats. And don't you think the Republicans don't know it?
Congressman, isn't it your colleagues in the House that are preventing something getting done, that they want all or nothing?
Oh, well, let's take these in order. First of all, the Republicans have said they want nothing. They have yet to put a substantial proposal on the table. They voted no on everything, frankly, all year long, and have said, John Kyle has said that he doesn't think there should be any Republican votes for this at all. Putting that aside, yes, there are people like myself who believe that a public option, if you want to control costs, have to be part of the plan. If you don't have some kind of competition and you don't have something like Medicare for all, like I would suggest, then there's nothing holding down costs.
Nothing to compete against the insurance agents. Congressman Anthony Weiner, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And once criticized for her lack of foreign policy experience, Sarah Palin is now headed to Asia. The former Alaska governor is going to Hong Kong to address a conference of global investment managers. The September 23rd event will mark her first commercial speaking event.